just a simple chain there with one of them eye bolts on it right there, and one of them S hooks. You know, it works. It could be stronger for sure. You know. We'll start this engine up tomorrow. Maybe. Been kind of hot here. It was hot in Arkansas. Man. For sure. Well, we need to paint a sign on that there tailgate. We may do that next week. We may knock that out. Paint something on that tailgate. Yeah, Fairbanks Morse, I think, on these right here. I believe that's what them was. Fairbanks Morse. But, little flicker of a wind chime. Little wind kicking up. You know what I mean? It's one of those. It's been perplexing me. You can tell it has worried me up to now. And maybe if I filmed it here on YouTube for the whole world to evaluate the situation and comment back as to how you know, was I okay with the way that I handled it. And what happened? It's a long story. Started many years ago. Getting my oil changed at the local Ford dealership in my hometown back in Arkansas, where I lived at. Not my hometown, it's where I lived, my town. So I could get the oil changed at the dealer cheaper than I could buy it and change it myself. It was that time period. So, you know, Ford dealer had a coupon in the newspaper, so I goes down there. New dealership just opened. I was one of the very first month's customers, maybe, to get, I don't know if they call it the works then, I believe they did. Joined up in that little club that they have, the works or something. You know, I did everything right, what they wanted me to do, what was required of me, you know, all the forms and papers and everything. And I have used it in the past, you know, like if you get an oil change and say they got a rebate or something, you know, on something, $10 off. Well, they don't give you the $10. They send you a coupon, little card, cash deal in the mail. It works, you know. So anyways, I did that a couple times. You know what I mean? I deal with them through the years. I have been a loyal customer to that dealer. The truck's got 230-some thousand miles on it. Man, I worry about that truck too. I'll be honest with you. But anyways, it's the best I can do. Man. What happened? Not to get off on a side trip. I think you're going to find this interesting as to how an individual, a human being, interacts with another human being in a civilized manner, and the outcome was what it is. You know, it was time to cut it short, get in the truck and drive off. It was to that point. Okay, what happened is I goes over here to this dealership, and if you do the works every time, it's probably the reason that truck runs as good as it does. Is I have got that oil change religiously right on whatever it says, you know, and a good oil too. I do that. Not the case of this lawnmower over here that I've had somewhere in the vicinity of 30 years, and it got run over a stump here in the yard, and it broke the rod in it. It won't run. So I did the other day was looking to see if there was anything salvageable off of it, and it don't have no oil in it. I've changed that oil one time. When I bought that lawnmower, it was like $99. This is 30 years ago. It was a series of Craftsman, Briggs and Stratton, and they give me a quart of oil with it. It was Pennzoil in a yellow can, a plastic thing. No, I'm not sure. They give me some oil, and I come home and mowed the grass that summer. And then that fall, I changed the oil and used that up. And I never changed it since. I have never unscrewed the cap and looked down in there. I just assumed that if that engine did not leak, you know, if there was no oil ever evident on the outside of that engine, that it would be in there. And the only thing that would happen if I looked in it, took the cap off, and looked down in there, to verify that it was there, the only thing that I would gain out of that is the possibility of a few particles of dust, sand particles, will fall down in there and do you more harm. I feel, and I'm confident in this, quote me on it, I kind of feel like that. That's phenomenal that lawnmower has lasted, and that's not what took it out. You know, I could have changed the point. I could have changed the oil every year that I've owned that. For like I say, 30 years. And I mowed the yard every year in all of that time. A small yard, but nevertheless, I mowed it more than necessary. Kept it manicured very good some years. And then there was that year when I didn't mow it, but I mowed it in the back. You know what I mean? But I just let the front kind of go free that year, and it was okay for the neighborhood. You know what I mean? But well, actually, I was gone for a while too. You know, that counts for something. But what happened? When I got the oil changed the last time at this dealer, I had qualified for a free oil change at this time. Okay, when I left the dealership at that time, he told me to that. He says, see you next time. He says, next is free on a works plan. I said, okay. So anyways, I goes ahead and put some miles on it. It's time for me to go back to the dealer for the oil change. So I goes back. Now this dealership through the years has been tip-top, clean and everything. But now I'll tell you what, I noticed when I went in. When I went to the dealership, I was greeted very, the man right down here is he's a very good salesperson. But he wasn't on his game this day. Things happen. I had been mowing the grass, and I was quite sweaty and hot to the point where I had a 1 o'clock appointment. I even changed clothes head to toe before I left the house, you know. Anyways, I go to the dealership, and I told him, I says, he says, good morning, and I had called in the day before for an appointment, and I had used my regular name when he asked me who it was then. Okay, when I went to the dealership, he actually addressed me as the name that was on the account. So I do know that he knew who I was. And we have interacted several times. And I think the guy would remember me. And, you know, I'd have problems at some point remembering him in the crowd. But anyways, I probably would. I'm not positive on it. goes in a dealership and put my keys down there. And this truck here, for the last 5 years, ever how long I've had it, the mileage part of the speedometer only comes home in the early morning if it has been damp at night. You know what works for me. You know, if I need to know what the mileage is, I just make a pencil note, you know. I'm not going to fix it, but that's a characteristic of that truck, and I'm okay with it. So I had jotted down the miles in the morning time when the speedometer lit, and then I added the miles from my house to there, and it come out right. So I handed the man behind the counter my keys and a little slip of paper that I had jotted down the mileage, what I thought it would be, and I told him, I says, here's what I think the mileage is on my oil change. Okay, and that was a procedure that he and I had going, and I explained it to him a long time ago how that would work. And anyways, we knew each other enough to know that. So he said, you going to be in a weight room? I said, yeah. And so I went on, and I started down the hall, and I had a second thought. I said, I didn't tell him the works. So I turned around, come back down, and peeked around the corner, and he was looking my way, and I said, the works? He said, yes. And I turned around and went on back. So verifying that he did know what I wanted. So I had picked up a crossword puzzle out of the newspaper earlier for just the waiting room. And I will tell you right now on the get-go that I did the Suzuki. I did that, knocked it right out. It was a 2-star, no problem whatsoever. I mean, it was like a give you know what I mean? Sometimes you work a puzzle, it's just so easy. It's like they gave you one, you know what I mean? And the next one is going to be really tough, you know what I mean? That kind of thought. So I'm in the weight room, contented, and I was going to see about a coffee cup. They usually have a very good coffee pot there. And when I went up to the counter right there, there were no cups in the thing right here, so I couldn't get a cup of coffee. I'll grant you it was 1 o'clock in the evening. That was when my appointment was, and I was a little bit early, you know, like 10 minutes, and I was okay. I was willing to wait that extra 10 minutes, you know, till they get to it, no problem. So, and as a matter of fact, I worked the puzzle crossword of that day, also complete. Had to change one letter in order for a crossword to fit crossways, and it verified my thinking. So it's pretty good. I usually don't do that, but that used up my time that they called me on the intercom and said, Mr. Kelly, come to service department. Okay, so I goes on up, and the dude, I see the dude come around the truck, around the building in my truck, and he parked it down yonder, you know, and got out and went on into the service area. Okay, and I'm dealing with the guy behind the counter up here now, and I had come in out of the waiting room, sat down at his desk in the chair there, and he's doing something on the calculator on the computer over there, but it actually sounds like he's doing something on a calculator. And he said, that'll be $51 and something. And I said, no. I said, ain't this my free one? And he said, I'll check. Okay, he remembered the last time, but this time right here, you know, he had a memory lapse. You know what I mean? Anyways, the dude punched it in the computer, and sure enough, it was free. He says, wait just a minute, I'll have to change some things in here. Okay, had I not called it to his attention, you know what I mean, just paid my bill and went on, I would have lost that free oil change. But anyways, I mean, that was okay. That was just a human mistake, you know, no foul, you know, no damage. And he gave me my paperwork, my keys and all, and I goes on out to the truck, and I kind of thought, it don't look like my wheels has been changed. You know, I ain't got no hubcaps on there. That Ford dealer lost them hubcaps through the years. You know what I mean? You go down there, you get that works, and it's a tire rotation every time. I mean, that's that's the most important part of it. That's the reason you went down there, was to get them tires rotated. It's important. You could let that oil change well another couple thousand miles. Been okay in today's oil. I'm just saying, could be. So, as I'm approaching my vehicle, it looked to me as if my tires had not been moved. And so I looked at that one right there, in a close-up manner. And I couldn't see that the impact wrench had made contact with the lug nuts anywhere. So I checked that one. I went up, and on that one over there in the shade, I actually got down on my hands and knees up close, and it had not been off. I mean, it was, it was positive. It ain't like maybe. It was positive that none of those wheels had been off of that vehicle. So I just marched right on back into the waiting room, and I says to my original salesperson, I says, did they rotate the tires on my truck? And he says they damn well better did. And at that point, I'm to the manager. I says, can I talk to the manager? That was my reply to him. And he says, yes. He says, right, here's the assistant manager. It was the guy sitting beside of him in the aisle desk, the aisle position, I guess. And the manager, he's back in there somewhere behind the parts department. Somewhere back in there, I think, is the way they set up. But anyways, I goes and he says, well, said the manager is doing something in the back, but he says, I'm the assistant manager. He says, can I help you? And I said, well, you look at my lug nuts. And turned around, I was on the way out as I'm telling him, and he actually did come in tow and got about halfway into the parking lot. He says, oh no, he said, I don't have to look at them. He said, we got a camera in the service area. He said, I'll go look at the film. He said, that'll tell. And the way he said it was, yeah, they changed them wheels. You know what I mean? That was the imply he had, that I was wrong. Okay, so I just marched right on back in behind him. He went on to the service area, and I just sat down there in the weight room and not saying a word to the original guy over there, because I'm thinking, this ain't right. You know what I mean? And I gets up, goes back out, and looked at that rims again to verify that, I was right in my first assessment. And when I come around the truck, it was the gentleman that performed the service on the vehicle. And I'm coming around the bumper. I said, did you rotate my tires? He said, yes, sir, I got it. And he just kept on walking. You know what I mean? And I guess that was a bad part. You know what I mean? But anyways, at that point, I'm back into where the manager's going to be at. You know what I mean? And so he comes out, the assistant manager, from looking at the video, and he said something is wrong with the video. He can't review it. About that time, the manager steps up, and he said, oh, here's the manager, and handed me off to him, but he stayed in the picture right there. He stood his ground. I was impressed with the way he handled his position the right way. And, I'm thinking all the time, the guy told me he changed them tires, and, I don't want my vehicle back in there taking no change, because, you got to have all your lug nuts tight. You know what I mean? I'm not saying anything. That was just kind of a thought, you know what I mean, is, I'm not getting that done today. You know what I mean? I'm not putting my truck back in that service bay again. Did they put oil in it? Did they actually change my filter? The manager is now talking to me, and a couple of questions, and he turned around and went back to the service department, and and the other one, and the assistant went with him, and I didn't go. I don't care what's going on back there. I'm not involved in that. It's not my problem. So here they come, and they says, Yeah, we looked at the video and verified that he did not change your tires. And so I said, you know, I probably was here the first month y'all opened up. Y'all serviced all that truck this time. And you know what, I was going to tell him, you know, that things happen, you know, and it's all that. And I just think, you know, what the use? You know what I mean? How come the guy didn't? The problem was he shouldn't have told me he changed them if he did. Okay, they went away. In the meantime, the assistant manager went away, and the gentleman come by that had serviced the vehicle, and he says, your keys, and you know, I had them in my hand, and he kind of reached for them. He was a technician there or something, whatever, oil change guy, I guess. I said, what for? And he says, I'm going to rotate your tires. I said, and I looked him straight in the eye. I said, you just told me right out the parking lot you run rotated them tires, and now you want my key? And there was no comment. There was no possible comment that he could make to me, and I'm not sure what his expression was, because I think their two eyes made contact that I had put him on the spot. And you know what? It's worried me that, you know, I was doing the truthful thing on my part. Okay, and to make that long story short, it wasn't very long. This took place in just a very few minutes. That's this part of it. And the assistant manager at that time, as I was talking about being a lifelong customer, you know, and all that stuff, you know, going off on them kind of stories. He said, okay, and he was turning around to get in his desk drawer to bring out a personal business card, and he wrote on the back of it, free oil change. No, he didn't. Next, oil change free. That's what he wrote on there, in an ink pen, and handed it to me, and he says, here's a free oil change next time. When your mileage is up, come on back, it'll be a free one. And he said, let me have your keys, and I'll go rotate, and I'll get your tires rotated. And I was looking at the manager, and I says, no. And there was a look of expression on both of those faces that was undescribable. The amazement. And I didn't say nothing. I was turning around at the time I'm saying this no to go out the building, which I did. I just kind of left them in amazement that, you know, I'm bringing this to attention and it's a problem, and then when they go rotate them, I said no. But my thinking was, you know, I don't want my truck back in there today. You know what I mean? Let me sleep on this and let the service technician sleep on it, and, you know, whatever the dealer, how they going to handle that. But you know what I mean? Did the dude just forget to do it, or it was hot? You know, did he just pass on? Man, you know, I'm just saying. On this engine, we're going to get this engine off this trailer and start it up. It's number 4. There's a story goes along with this engine, but I'm going to sell it. And we'll get it off from here and put some gas to it and crank her up.